morning, everybody. My name is Teresa Hurley, and I'm chair of the Green Campus Committee here in TU Dublin. And you're all very welcome to our panel session on inspiring sustainability and leadership to celebrate Green Week, 7th to the 11th of March here in TU Dublin. And what better way to kickstart the proceedings other than to invite our special guest for the panel this morning, Ciarán Cuffe, who is member of the Green Party and MEP for the Dublin constituency, and as an architect and planner and former lecturer here in TU Dublin, Ciarán has been a long-time advocate of sustainability. Ciarán, you're very welcome, and thank you for joining us this morning. Ciarán is joined by Jennifer Boyer, our VP for Sustainability here in TU Dublin, and Nathalie Cassou is chair of the Green Campus Committee in Blanchardstown on the Blanchardstown campus, and also lecturer here in TU Dublin. And Nathalie is joined by Dean Brickland, who is a final year student with us here on the BSc Spatial Planning and Environmental Management. Dean is also Vice Chair of the Green Campus Committee in TU Dublin. So you're all very welcome, and thank you for taking the time out to spend with us on the panel this morning. Ciarán, if I could start with yourself and just ask you a little bit about what you feel are the major challenges for sustainability leaders and what those challenges are that they're facing today and indeed in the future.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest environmental challenges are climate change, climate breakdown, and the loss of biodiversity. So these are the big picture items. And with the launch of the most recent IPCC report yesterday, the final lines of that report said that the window for action is very limited, and we need to take deep actions at this stage. Coming back to Ireland, the current government has agreed a very ambitious climate action plan. And looking at that plan, it will lead to very significant changes in transport, in construction, in energy, in agriculture. But we have yet really to grasp that nettle and start making those changes. So I think we're in an unusual period where we know what has to be done, but we haven't done it yet. People are still out there buying large SUVs. They're still flying for a short break in a far off holiday spot. And I think there is a dissonance between what we know about what needs to be done and what we're actually doing. Looking at it through the European lens in Brussels, I think it was the UK Prime Minister Harold Macmillan who was meant to say, who was supposed to have said, events, dear boy, events. In other words, suggesting that often things are blown off course. And the pandemic, and more recently the tragic war in Ukraine, tend to take the focus away from the long-term environmental crisis that we face. We also, and from working in Europe for the last 2 years, I'm acutely aware of how the changes we need to make will significantly impact on many countries. I would have chats with a Romanian colleague who would say, Ciarán, 60,000 coal miners have lost their jobs in southern Romania. So if we want to make the green transition, we have to offer hope. We have to offer gainful employment to those whose jobs will be lost in the environmental transition. Even in other sectors such as aviation, we need to fly less, and therefore we need to find other opportunities for aviation workers. So this isn't easy, and at a European Union level, we're making available a really big Just Transition Fund to provide the money to governments and regions to make this transition. So I think it is challenging. We have to scale up a lot of what we do massively, whether that be renewable energy or a move away from high energy agriculture. In many areas, we know the answers for this. In some areas, we're still dealing with the solutions. We know we need lots of green hydrogen. We're still unsure as to how we can ramp that up dramatically. I'll just conclude by saying there's two big files on my desk at the moment. A a revision of the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, which Jennifer would be familiar with. And we've seen two iterations of this directive from 20 years ago and 10 years ago. We now want to, in a sense, go for gold, go for zero energy buildings. As an architect, intellectually, I know we can do this tomorrow, but in terms of ramping up the supply chains, in terms of ramping up the knowledge base to practitioners out there, from craftspeople to professionals, it's a huge, massive challenge. And that's where a lot of the problems lie. And then the other file I'm dealing with is on, say, sustainable aviation fuels. So we're moving towards sustainable biofuels and other types of synthetic aviation fuels. We're not quite sure how those technologies will work. We don't have all the answers. So when it comes to the goal of tackling biodiversity loss and climate breakdown, we know where we want to be, but we are still struggling to both improve human capacity to tackle this and also to provide the technical know-how.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that, Kieran. And I guess bringing that all a little bit closer to home here in TU Dublin, Jennifer, what do you see as the main challenges for us here in TU Dublin over the next 5 years?
Thanks, Teresa. I mean, I think Kieran has touched on quite a number of things there. Some of them resonate with things that I think we are going to find challenging, and it's to do with how we organize ourselves, and I suppose, and how we inspire action that is lived through a sustainability agenda. And I think education, as a higher education institution, has a huge role to play in that capacity building and that balanced transition. And I think, you know, it has to be fair, it has to be inclusive, and sustainability's principles would embody that. So I think we're going to have a challenge in terms of meeting that intergenerational step change, because the generations are all quite different in their mindsets about sustainability as an imperative. And so how we tackle that kind of unilaterally with everybody together has to generate an inclusive and actionable response at a real level. So as our students come through our campus over the next number of years, increasingly sustainability is a must-have criteria within their education and within the university experience. And so we are going to need to demonstrate sustainability principles that are evidenced within our curriculum, within our activities on campus, within how we operate our buildings, within the types of food that we supply within our cafeteria, all sorts of things. And I think the key there is that because many of the younger generations coming into university have that mindset built in, it's actually empowering them to be key agents to help us all make this transition and change. I think the other thing too, in terms of some of the challenges, is about resource management, because sustainability is very much about understanding that there is a limitation to the resources that we have, and how we utilize those best goes back to how we organize ourselves most effectively to ensure that we are bringing all of our most valuable resources, which are our people, through that process. And so again, I think you know, a community like this, in terms of the Green Campus Committee and all of the initiatives, is an example of how the university actually brings together this kind of value system and demonstrates it through a number of activities, be they campus related, education related, you know, society related, social events, all types of things. But I think ultimately sustainability is about change. And change is hard because it means potentially you're giving up something to do something else. And so you have to create an inspiration for why you're changing. And for me, sustainability is that inspiration. You know, we have to change. We know that. How we change and making that clear and relevant to people in their daily lives is a challenge that I think as a university as a whole we need to address in lots of different ways, because it means something different to everybody, and we need everybody kind of feeling that they're part of it and that they're responsible for making the changes.
Right, and I guess that leads quite nicely on to the question for Natalie there, in terms of how the Green Campus Committee are going about trying to make that change happen.
Yeah, it's actually really well stratified here. We have the government, European government, and then the management, and then the lecturers, the Green Campus Committee, and then we'll have the voice of the students. And I think we cannot do anything without all these people linked together. And what we've done in the Green Campus, actually, I'm more a volunteer than a chair. I haven't got that title, so I prefer to see myself as a volunteer. I think it's important that everybody feels they are on equal ground there, and that they can all do their part. So on Blanchardstown campus, as I decided to be outdoors because I think our campus is one of the best. We have like a mini forest before mini forests were in fashion. We have the mini forest in the middle of the campus, and we have a lot of hedges. We have a lot of biodiversity. I was talking about rabbits, pheasants, frogs, frog's bones, wild swan, everything that you can find in the outdoor around Dublin are on campus in Blanchardstown. We've done many things around the campus for the Green Week campaign. We've had, of course, research from students with poster making. We've had movies. We've had cycling, e-bike cycling, cars as well. We had demonstration of electric cars. We've had a collection of plastic caps, and I think that's also shows how the effort was shared between campus, because we've done some work with Tala campus, collecting plastic caps and collecting wrapping from crisps. So sustainability on the ground. We've had always a campaign for cleanup as well. I think cleanup is a good short alternative action that students and staff can do on the ground. So you pick up rubbish and you make your place nice. And I think that uplifts the spirit of everybody. I think we have, of course, Kieran and Jennifer and the TU Dublin overall will have plans, but we have to be on the ground like little ants and working towards a better future together. And I think the students have a eagerness for that. And there's so much research being done around the SDGs, the goals from the UN, and around sustainability. So I think, as you said, the pandemic and the world issues at the moment are bringing we kind of are pushed to act. And I think that's out of these crisis, we can have something positive coming out. So I'm sure Dean will lift our spirit as well with talking about the skills and the student perspective. I think that's all I want to say. Maybe I'll give you a little tour of our little mini forest on campus here.
Yes, so you were well ahead of the curve then in terms of
Definitely.
The biodiversity issues. And again, we've a similar range, I guess, of initiatives, green initiatives happening both on the Tala campus and City campus as well. And I know that, Dean, you've been working really hard on putting together this schedule of events and programmes for a Green Week here in TU Dublin from the 7th to the 11th of March. Do you want to give us a little taste and a flavour of what's in store for us?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things going on, so I had to make some notes here beside me just to make sure I remember some of the key ones anyway. But there's almost 50 events, so you won't be able to attend all of them, and they'll be all over TU Dublin and Blanchardstown campus, the City campus, and Tala. So some of them, ones that Natalie mentioned there as well, are there's activities like student volunteering for litter picking. We have this really cool event that's going on with it's called The Nature of Nature. It's a week long. There's a couple of tours being given. Like Melinda Lyons is doing a tour of Bull Island. That's a fantastic site, but looking at the biodiversity and the habitats that are there. And Ken Boyle is also doing a tour of our new Grangegarman campus and looking at some of the initiatives taken on by the Grangegarman Development Agency, who've done a lot of really cool stuff, and including a lot of biodiversity and sustainability initiatives on the campus. Actually, they're doing their 4th annual seminar, the Environmental Sustainability Health Institute. They're looking at a lot of showcasing a lot of the research that they've been doing, which is a lot of really good stuff going on there. Got sustainable development goals workshops and Of course, the Sully test is always included. I've organised an event with David Mooney, who's a resident of the Cloughjordan Eco Village, and he's going to be looking at the lessons learned from the village, and are any of the initiatives that they've taken on there transferable over to our existing urban areas, which would be a really cool thing to hear from him, I think. And we have an energy panel too with Bord na Móna and ESB, who are taking on they've got a big job in delivering a lot of the renewable energy projects, and they have some issues with doing that. Bord na Móna have had to cut down all of their peat extraction, so they have all this land. They've turned into more of an energy production company now with wind turbines and solar panels, and it'd be good to hear from them about that. And so we've got a lot of many more activities across the campus. It's not just for students, but it's also for the public. The public are more than welcome to come along to these initiatives. It's good for lecturers as well, because they're teaching the students, so they need to be aware of a lot of the sustainability initiatives going on in their own academic fields and their industries. And it's a good thing as well for networking, because the last 2 years a lot of students have been missing out on the networking. So I've always enjoyed going to these events and then kind of haranguing the people who show up there to try to get a job. So it's a great way to get involved in the industry. So people will be able to check out the final schedule on tudublin.ie. Look for the Green Week webpage, and we hope to see many people there from the public as well as staff and students.
Great, it sounds tremendous. There's a great diverse range of activities happening, and again, people from outside of TU Dublin are welcome to get involved as well. Students, staff, stakeholders, friends of TU Dublin. Again, all of those events happening from the 7th to the 11th of March. So all that remains for me to do is to thank you all for your time this morning, in particular Kieran for making the time, and also to express our sincere appreciation to all of the Green Campus members who are making all the green initiatives around the TU Dublin campuses happen. So thank you very much, and hopefully we will see some of you during Green Week, 7th to the 11th of March. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.